Hey guys, what's up? It's Schla coming back to ya with another episode of Car Rides with Schla. And today, one of the things that kind of stood out to me that I was thinking of that I guess I wanted to articulate on the show is kind of a further examination on how, people really tend to view animals very favorably, in comparison to humans for whatever reason. I think we've discussed before there's probably some types of rationale for as to why that's the case, but um you know, we've kind of discussed it. We've discussed how it's like I think there's a comprehension thing. An animal, a pet especially, it's very easy for a human to just like understand because it's like, oh, an animal wants to be pet. It wants to have food. And so for people, I think that's kind of like a calmer, more reassuring thing. And for a human takes a lot of effort, and calculation. And I think for most people nowadays, they just don't really see it as worth it, or maybe they don't even see the benefits, I guess, which is, again, it's pretty strange for me to rationalize because, obviously, like as I go through life, um, I kind of think it's very obvious. It's very obvious that, in general, you know, a human is able to provide so much more than a animal possibly could. I mean, it's not even particularly close. Now, what comes with that is obviously the potential, I guess, for even worse behavior, because a human can be very evil simultaneously, has a much broader and wider scope for, being evil. So I think that's kind of what ends up happening and materializing. And so I think that certainly has an effect on things, right? And yeah, I don't know. Don't really know what else to. We already had that conversation. I guess there's like other reasons, but the whole point is like I see it as most often when I'm talking to people that they prioritize and value. Oh, well, it's also like this final point that humans are still by nature going to be very biased towards like their possessions, and strangers are very can still be, I guess for good reason too, like very unsettling for humans. Like it's like a stranger, you don't really know them, you don't really know what they're capable of. In some sense, it's just a much safer and more sensible mindset to just go ahead and be like, oh, well, of course, I'm going to trust my own cat over a stranger, even if the stranger is a human. But what I've talked about before is kind of the mental exercise of like, if you had to keep your pet alive versus saving the life of a random human, what, who would you pick? Um, and obviously, I think for many people, they end up picking their pets. And I think that it's a little bit odd to me. It is a difficult choice, though. Because, at first I think in my head, like, oh, like, of course I'd have to. I mean, there's no way that, like, if it was between my cat and, like, a random human stranger, like, I would have to have my cat die because there's just no way. Like, how is that even And but I think about it more, and I kind of understand how this is more of like a moral conundrum, but I still feel like it's I really think it's hard to justify um how it would be more morally acceptable to save your pet. I think the main moral like ambiguity about it is that the person you're saving could be a bad person or a good person. But I think the fact that we don't know for sure, I mean, that would be crazy if, like, in this comparison, you do the dice roll, you decide that, you want to save your pet and instead have a random human life destroyed. And like, what if it just does the dice roll and it's like a really good person, So I'm just not really sure. Like, I think there's a lot. There's a lot to that. Like I really do still feel fairly confident that I'm making the correct call with my judgment. Again, I'm not certain, but I think it's pretty likely. And I'm trying to let this guy go. I'm not sure. Yeah, he eventually. But yeah. So I think it's all relevant stuff to point out, and yeah. No, I don't know where else I was really going with that. But yeah, of course, there's arguments to be made either way. It's just, I really do value like humans and humanity. I think human life is a really important thing to like prioritize, and our ability to persist is extremely important. Um, there's a lot of things that are very concerning, that nowadays are putting in jeopardy the the humans, no, humanity's ability to persist. You know, there's a lot of things that are putting that in jeopardy, and it's a lot of the modernization that has actually gotten us here that kind of has reached that point. You know, um, so yeah, it's a shame. It's I mean I think it's pretty a shame. But anyways, the main point is further stem from that, because a lot of the times, again, people also in their mind, like, they obviously have a more neutral. So this is a problem. I guess it may always have been a problem with humans, but I think with modern humans it's like more particularly an issue. I don't think that most people derive the bulk of their enjoyment directly from other people anymore. I think that ship has actually sailed. Like, I think those days are over. And it's kind of scary and it's kind of sad, but especially with younger people, it's like, I don't really see how they are all that dependent on other people for their source of joy. I notice this a lot, and I think about it a lot, and a lot of people don't. But when you use short form content, especially, but I mean this has been the case since YouTube was around and the internet was around. When you're like looking up videos, watching like comedy compilations, like really cracking up at these like extreme jokes or extreme memes, It's obviously more like dramatized, exacerbated. I use exacerbated a lot. I kind of want to try to use like different words. It's more like dramatically apparent with the advent of TikTok, but like the whole point is you cannot, like, a person cannot compete with TikTok's humor. I mean, TikTok's humor is like technically, like theoretically, every single person that even posts, and it's also content where it's like a moment where they're specifically putting effort into making funny content, and it could be rehearsed, it could be like all kinds of things really, and it, like, yeah, like rehearsed or like scripted or like really well thought out, but you don't see that. You just see it as like you easily just swipe through it. Whereas in an actual present moment with a person, in order to make a good joke, it is not always instant. It's probably not going to be like the best. It's probably not going to be able to compete with some, idea that somebody, oh wow, like this would be a really funny TikTok. Let me do this, you know? And then when you're on TikTok, you're also like ready to be amused. Whereas in real life, jokes are not, they're not always like expected. Um, so it creates this environment where, like, yeah, you can, I mean, something can really have you laugh, like really hard. You can laugh more than interactions with another person could ever give you. And I think it's one of the things about social media that I've been most repellent to. Like, if of anything, it's been like that kind of thing where I think it's very important, and I still have most of my laughter and fun moments with people. I don't really like using technology for the purpose of jokes or for the purpose of like finding humorous videos. Like, I just don't do it. I mean, I really don't pursue that. Does that make sense? Like, it's like I really I really feel that. I've always been very repellent to it. And it's something that for so many people is such a common source of their, I mean, they laugh at everything in these like really deranged and crazy videos. And then so of course when you actually hang out with a person, there's just nothing to it, you know? There's, you can't, I can't compete with that. I mean, I could be like a mega comedian, and I still, like, if you just sit down and have dinner with me, I'm not going to be as funny as this limitless curated feed personally for you, for your own personal taste and humor. And what it creates, as I've talked about before with hyper individuality, is it creates this huge problem where it's like before, I mean, you might, I mean, like ages ago, pre-internet, pre-radio, pre-TV, you would only really know the humor of your family, of your friends, of your, immediate community, and that's it. I mean, if you lived in New York City, that was what you were accustomed to. It was what you knew, and the people around you were similar. Um, and that's it. Like, I mean, whatever standard that was. Now, if you lived in the middle of nowhere, if you lived in the sticks, out in like a rural area, um, then that would be all, which probably would be shabbier. It probably would be less impressive, your lifestyle. But you only really had the people around you. It's like, yeah, I mean, maybe if your neighbor had like a slightly better car, right? I mean, there's some envy or whatever, but the whole point is it's like you you just didn't have that, like you had a lot in common with the people around you because it's like all you had, it's all you knew. Whereas now you go on the internet and you can find somebody with this perfect humor for yourself. Something, some joke that the person you're around can't provide or they can't get. Some way to be entertained that the people around you can't give you, right? And it's through TikTok, it's through Instagram. This is how we function now and it's normal. But we really have to think about the consequences of that, of the people around us not being the people we go to. We listen to streamers. I've definitely talked about that before, how obviously a YouTuber or a streamer, we end up spending more time consuming content with them than we do with people we actually know and care about because it's easier. We live in such a messy world where everybody's job is like on a different time. If you're friends with people on the internet, they're in different time zones on top of that. Some people work part-time shifts. Some people's jobs just have them work in weird times. Like, I feel like in the past there was probably more uniformity in terms of like work schedules. I know obviously everything would be closed on Sunday, and there was more of like a consistency with the routine of things. As time has went on, it's just like all that's gone out the window, and it's just been like, oh well, if an individual business wants to do this, they do it. Boom, boom, boom. But what are the caveats to that? Like I said, it's like more of this like further, it becomes impossible for people to actually connect. And again, it's like the people at your work or the people like you don't even know them that well, really, but it's who you spend most of your time around. I mean, like the way we're living, it's something is like really wrong. Like everything seems like really poorly allocated and misallocated. Like I don't even know how else to mention it. It's very strange to me. Um, yeah, it just seems so strange. And like why nobody else sees that, like how little sense that makes. I'm pretty certain there could easily be ways to kind of allocate things better. Like obviously you have people who exist as like cashiers, and it's like you really can make the argument that isn't necessary. And you could save a lot of money, and not just to mean that those people are going to be fresh out of luck, but they could be doing other things. There could be other things for people to do. Now I guess you can make the argument that yeah, that is kind of a modern conundrum where it's like certain people just may not be made for higher skilled jobs, and you know a lot of entry level work is going to be harder and harder to come by. So that's a shame, you know. Yeah, I'm mad about that microphone thing. I really want the new mic, but if I want to buy everything right now, it's going to be full price. So I just I don't have time for that. Well, no, I if any if anything, I don't have time for waiting for like the lower price or whatever. But yeah, I'm not really sure where I was going with all that, but it's like there's definitely inefficiencies, like there just is. There's so many inefficiencies with things. But I think a lot of people don't care to improve things. That's kind of the problem number one. But problem number two, because it seems weird, because it's like a lot of people are struggling and will end up struggling. Like it doesn't it doesn't really make a lot of sense why people would be putting up with what's going on. I don't know that I really have an answer on that. Because it's like people want to improve things, but at the same time, like a lot of people don't really spend much time to learn about that. So I don't really see how that makes any sense. Yeah, I'm just sorry. I'm just like kind of caught because it's like it's true. I mean, most people in America are really struggling right now. And it's like the result of that, I guess, has been an uptick in political involvement, like for sure. But at the same time, I don't really know if any like clear effort or changes are being made. Like I still think a lot of people just kind of don't really do anything, if that makes sense. Like they're not fundamentally doing anything to really change things, if that makes sense. I don't really know how else to put it. Like it's just like it's I think it's weird. It feels weird to me. Um yeah, I'm really not sure how that adds up. Like, I don't know. I'm trying to figure it like I'm hitting a dead end here. I mean, I just think it's outside of people's ability to comprehend. I still think there's a lot of people that are like way more optimistic than they should be, and we're gonna see like most people's dreams just get completely crushed. As time goes on. I laugh about that, but it's true. I mean, there's a lot of people that think that you know major things are gonna happen or whatever, but it's just it's just not like people are not gonna be in good things are not in a good trajectory. I mean, I just cannot believe how optimistic some people are. I guess it's a good thing, but I honestly think it's a bad thing. I know this is like a huge topic change, but I'm thinking of it because like I've overheard people talking about it, and it's kind of a thing. I guess it's a sentiment that I used to believe in some ways, like where it's like I overheard this conversation with people and they're talking about how, you know, happiness, oh yeah, yeah, like happiness, you're not entitled to it. It's a choice. And if you're looking for the wrong things in the world, that's what you'll see. And if you're looking at the good things in the world, that's what you'll see. But to me, that's like, I mean, it's dangerous to think that way because while in a selfish sense, I mean, that's like entirely correct. Because if you're just thinking of it about like your own happiness and your own mental health, then that's fine. But I think I've talked about it before. Like, anybody who's really changed society or done anything good, they've definitely looked at the flaws. They've definitely seen negativity and struck at it, you know? And it's sort of like engineers complacency into people to just like, yeah, well, just be happy. Just be happy. It doesn't matter if you're living paycheck to paycheck. It's like happiness is just, I just think it's honestly not a good mindset. Like I don't know how productive that is. I think it's like it just shouldn't be. It's not productive. I don't think it is, at least. I think like it's more productive to oh I'm trying to think. I don't know where I was getting at with that. Yeah, what would be more productive? Yeah, I'm not sure. I lost my train of thought, so I think I'm just gonna wrap it up because I don't know what I'm talking about. It was kind of a good episode until the end. I started trailing off a lot because I guess I didn't really feel like thinking about the brick wall I hit. So yeah. Anyways, it's been Schla, and now it's time to buy Schla. So see you, Schla.